Ribieiro Addy, who is currently Black Students Officer also for the NUS, National Union of Students. Bella holds a BSc in Biomedical Science and Philosophy of Science from the University of Bradford, as well as an MA in Medical Law and Ethics from the University of London. Bellavia is currently a full-time National Black Students Officer for NUS, which is a national elected role, and heads the largest organisation of black students in Europe that represents 1 million students of African, Asian, Caribbean and Arab heritage in Britain on issues relating to social, political and academic underrepresentation, educational inequality and international policy. She has a particular interest in promoting challenging racial inequality across gender, disability, sexual orientation and faith dimensions. Belle.
Thank you. At least that means I don't have to explain the Black Students Campaign is about. But I would like to begin by explaining why we use the term, can everybody hear me? Why we use the term black, because that's something that people are always thinking over in their minds, I've realised whilst I begin speaking. So, as has been said, we represent all students of African, Arab, Asian and Caribbean heritage, and we unite under the name black and we use it as a political term because we realise that within this country, within under the sphere of institutional racism, if you're not politically white, you are politically black. And the discrimination that our communities face is the same, and it's all based on our race. And it's very important that we're tackling that together, and that's why we use that one name. I'm going to start off by talking a bit about my experiences at university and how I saw the Muslim communities in my universities. Until I got involved in the Black Students Campaign and started visiting other campuses, things seemed quite alright in terms of what was happening. For example, I started off at Bradford University, which has a large Muslim community, and there weren't so many issues with the prayer room. The sabbatical team had to listen to the ISOC because they were practically the biggest society on campus, and then obviously I went on to Queen Mary's, and that's exactly the same situation there. So at those two institutions things seemed okay, but looking at other universities around the country and other colleges around the country, you looked at the very poor prayer facilities. Absolutely no regard given to halal food, and as far as I said, these seem to be the biggest issues around at the time, and they're still quite major issues. And that's something that we work with ISOCs around the country to try and get them to address on their own campuses. Now, I think the major issue that's facing Muslim students on their campus as well as in wider society is the issue of Islamophobia. Now, there was a time when campuses could have been seen as safe havens, because in reality, university campuses are actually quite a good example of multiculturalism in practice. Many people within this country, until they get to university, don't actually get to see a diverse breadth of people, faiths, cultures, races. But once you get into the university system, you learn so much and you see so much. So there was a point in time where things were okay, but with the rise of the BNP and particularly after the 7/7 bombings, as been said, things got quite difficult. You saw situations where, in areas where the BNP was active, where Muslim women were having their hijabs ripped off in broad daylight in front of the library. Attacks on the actual campuses when things weren't even that, it wasn't even that dark, if that makes sense. And all these horrible things were going on, and Muslim students were experiencing so many awful things after the bombings and with the BNP on trying to get onto their campuses, and a lot of Islamophobic activity overall. And this type of thing that does really affect your studies. It affects your studies. It affects your whole student experience. And that's something that we've been working very hard to tackle and try and get to a position where there is increased black representation within students' unions, increased black representation within institutions overall, because you find that where this is the case, things are a lot easier. However, because of what's been happening on campus, you find that black students, Muslim students have been stepping back and going into that you know, place where that, well, you know, I've come here to study, I'm just going to study, keep myself to myself, and, you know, not get involved, because that's where, you know, things start to go wrong, and you get better known. And, you know, as far as I was saying, that sometimes you may be seen as a troublemaker, and obviously that's not what it is. It really does, you know, bring a lot more depth to your experience as a student, and it's something that we're working to try and make sure that, you know, black students do go ahead and do.
Thank you very much, Belle.